Good morning. How is everybody this morning? I have quite a tough teaching this morning. It's not easy. And I have called it Back to the Wall Christianity, because that's the place that I find myself at the moment. There have been many challenges happening in the world around us. And if we were to weaken, we could almost feel shell-shocked. My home country of Eswatini, as they call it, Swaziland, is burning. Riots have spilled over and were met with great brutality and punishment. A lot of looting happened, businesses have burnt, and there's a lot of anger and upset on all sides of the divide. And it is a time when I think, as Christians, that we need to seek God's face to say, where am I in all of this? What is my role? It's so easy to think it's not my problem, it's not my fight, it doesn't concern me. Here in South Africa, we have similar issues with the former president, Jacob Zuma, blatantly defying the powers that be, also having put his people through a lot of problems that they didn't need to go through. And I truly believe that these men will be held to account one day before the Lord, because the Bible is very clear about that. But where does that leave us as Christians? What is our stand? What are we to do? What is the Lord saying to us? At the same time, I've been doing a study on Elijah, Elijah, and his runaway after his extraordinary miracle with the prophets of Baal, and he's in the cave, and God is saying, wanting to talk to him, and Elijah recognized God's voice. He recognized that small whisper, and he was just tired. He wasn't asking God for anything. He was simply telling God how it felt and where he was at. And God said to him, basically, it's not over yet. You have to go back the way you came through the wilderness, through the desert to Damascus. So sometimes it's not enough just to tell God how I feel. We need to ask God what it is that we are supposed to be doing. And I really have battled with a lot of the attitudes that have come out through the violence in Swaziland, the hardness of heart of certain people, the inability to see another person's side of the story. We tend, and I'm guilty of this, don't get me wrong, but we can be guilty sometimes of thinking, this is my opinion, I'm seeing it, this is the way it is, end of story, because we see it from our point of view. But a strange thing happened to me last week when one of the first reports of the problems in Swaziland started to break, and somebody sent me a short video clip of a mob rushing into a shopping complex, and the next minute you heard 2 gunshots and the crowd ran out. And the person taking the video thought it was very funny, and in a way it was, 2 gunshots and everybody flees. But something strange happened to me with that, and I felt this pain, I don't know how to describe it, welling up from deep inside. And I just found myself lying on the floor, howling before the Lord, saying, no, no. And I honestly believe that that was the Lord, that was the Holy Spirit. There's a song that we sing that says, Lord, break my heart for what breaks yours. And I honestly believe that what I was sensing was God's heart breaking in that moment for his people. And, God is the final judge. We need to be very careful how we judge. And I found a lot of things being said on the internet that really ought not to have been said by people, but it was fear and anger and all sorts of things that was coming out. And, people were saying things that they shouldn't have said. The words that kept coming through my mind are found in Matthew 23, verse 37, where Jesus is heading towards Jerusalem, ready for the final countdown, the showdown, and he cries out over Jerusalem, says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. You know, we need to make very, very certain that we are willing to do God's will. We need to be on guard, that we hear what he's saying to us, that still small voice. You know, there has to be a conscience. There has to be some acknowledgement that in any situation like there is in Swaziland, all of us have a role to play. All of us have some culpability. All of us could maybe have done something to make the plight of certain people better. Maybe. I've heard people say, oh, we don't pay our taxes because they're just going to be misspent. There's a corrupt government. Okay. What are you doing with the tax that you didn't pay? Is it just going into your pocket? Or are you using it to help those who you think are being harmed by corruption? There are tough questions that we need to ask. And we might not like the answers that we get. And so that led me to look at the anger, my own, and the anger that I'm sensing around me. And of course, I went back to Matthew 5, verses 21 to 22. And it says, you've heard it said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be in danger of the judgment. But I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whoever says to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of the council. But whoever says, you fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Now, I decided to go back to the good old Amplified. And it's quite interesting how that is translated. It says, for I tell you, you have heard that it was said to the men of old, you shall not kill. And whoever kills shall be liable to and unable to escape the punishment imposed by the court. He then goes on to say, but I say to you that everyone who continues to be angry with his brother or harbors malice, enmity of heart against him, shall be liable to and unable to escape the punishment imposed by the court. That's written twice. The punishment imposed by the court, and whoever speaks contemptuously and insultingly to his brother shall be liable and unable to escape the punishment imposed by the Sanhedrin. And whoever says, you cursed fool, you empty-headed idiot, shall be liable to and unable to escape the hellfire. That's a powerful, powerful threat. And so, particularly as Christians, we need to be careful. We need to examine our hearts. And, you know, it's easy to just skim over the surface and say, oh, yeah, no, I'm fine. But are you? Then why are you making the sort of statements in public that you are? And we need to check ourselves, each one of us. Jesus said in John 15, verse 13, greater love has no man than this, than that he lays down his life for his friends. But Jesus laid down his life for his enemies. And love that does nothing is not love at all. Love that sits back and says, it's not my problem, it's somebody else's fight. That's not love. Concern that says, oh, I'm concerned, but doesn't do anything, that's not concern. And of course, a big motivator in all of this, in all strife, is invariably between the haves and the have-nots. And again, Jesus puts this into perspective when he talks about it in Matthew 7:24. He says, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. We know that it's not money itself that's evil. It's the love of money that is evil. Again, going back to Matthew 7:24. No, I've got it wrong there. It's not Matthew 7:24, but never mind, 6:24. Sorry, I've put it wrong. It's Matthew 6:24. Says, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will stand by and be devoted to the one and despise and be against the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. or deceitful riches, money, possessions, or whatever is trusted in. These are powerful, powerful words, and we need to take heed to them. And for me, it's really been a time of a crossroads. What do I do? What is expected of me? What is my role in this? Because as a Christian, I'm God's hands and feet, and I'm his mouth. What am I doing? How do I do it? What is the right attitude of heart that I need to have? How do I still the clamor of all that is going on? The earthquake, the wind in that cave. How do I wrap my head, shut out all that's happening in order to hear what it is that God is saying? These are questions that I've been wrestling with, and I believe it's a time for many of us, with all that is happening in the world, and especially in this beloved subcontinent, and indeed elsewhere in Africa, for us to start to regroup and say, what is our role? And I've been following this lady, this incredible woman, Nightbird. I'm sure many of you know about her, and she's had an amazing time on America's Got Talent. And if you follow her blog, she has an amazing way of writing, and her experience of God is raw and deep and intense. And I got to this verse, and it in a way, it sort of epitomizes where I'm at, what I'm feeling, and I think describes the situation for many of us. She says, I haven't come as far as I'd like in understanding the things that have happened this year. But here's one thing I do know. When it comes to pain, God isn't often in the business of taking it away. Instead, he adds to it. He is more of a giver than a taker. He doesn't take away my darkness, he adds light. He doesn't spare me of thirst, he brings water. He doesn't cure my loneliness, he comes near. So why do we believe that when we are in pain, it must mean that God is far? I've experienced some of that. I just felt God had gone away, and when I realized that, it was when one of our members put a blessing on our WhatsApp group, and I started to listen to it, and I couldn't. I just said, Lord, I cannot take your blessing when my people are being brutalized and killed across the border. I can't, when such horror is happening. And that really spoke to me, that I can turn away God's blessing because my fellow man is not being blessed at this moment in time. And that was when I found this sentence, and I just thank the Lord for Nightbird. I put it on her blog to just thank her for her words that have made it across all the space from America to here, to bring us a bit of courage and encouragement as well, to know that God is here. God is in your pain. God is in your fear. But you need to reach out to him. You need to accept him at that place and hear what he has to say to you. And it's not always what you want to hear. And that's the gospel truth of it all. Life is tough. It's not a bed of roses. And when your back is against the wall, how does your Christianity stand up to it? May God bless you all in the coming week, and I pray for peace and dialogue and progress for each one of you in your lives and for us in our lives. That would come to drown that word out now, would it not? Bless you all. Cheers.